we're here for another OTC Stock Talk. It's going to be an exciting day. We're having a huge, amazing conversation with Vinanz, symbol VINZF. You don't want to miss this. We are not licensed advisors. We are not financial planners or investment brokers. So please do your own due diligence, know what you own, and you've come to the right place to find out as much due diligence as you can handle. So thank you for joining us here today. 1 second.
We're back.
Huey.
You've got Huey here and you've got David Lennigas, the chairman.
Hey guys, how are you?
Great. You guys sound a lot better. That's much more clear. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get going on this space. We've got quite a few amazing questions, and people that trade Bitcoin, invest in Bitcoin, or invest in stocks that mine Bitcoin definitely want to be involved in this call. So we're going to have, I'm sure, thousands of replays on this one here. So without further ado, David, could you introduce yourself and let people know who you are and how you got involved with Vinanz and Bitcoin and what brought you to this place?
Yeah, I'm in New York at the moment with Huey, and bottom line is, it's time for us to get out here in New York and tell the story. We're listed in London. We're dual listed in the US. Ticker symbol VINZ for zebra, F. In London, we managed to secure the ticker symbol BTC, which is amazing. We've been going for a year. The model is we don't want to own data centers. We just want to own Bitcoin miners. And we just want to expand with owning Bitcoin miners in North America. We don't want to go to Kazakhstan. We don't want to go to China. We don't want to go to UAE. We just want homegrown apple pie and Canada, because we think that there's a big space here for a small, growing, fast growing, and soon to be, medium and very large Bitcoin miner that's got a different model. The big marathons of the world, they're not going to go 10 to 20x. It's the little ones like us with a market cap of 20 million that are debt free, cash flow positive. Our Bitcoin operating cost is sub $15,000 a coin. That was before halving. Right, so after halving, I think it's probably going to be about $30,000 a coin. We just need the miners to settle down a bit, and we're scalable in a linear sense. And I don't want all my eggs in one basket. I don't want to go and put 5,000 Bitcoin miners sitting in Texas to find that they all get wiped out by a tornado. And I don't want 1,000 Bitcoins in Montana where the government decides they're going to tax people on Bitcoin mining and stuff. So the whole idea is small clusters, diversified, multiple states, multiple countries. Well, there's only two, which is Canada and North America, and use the US marketplace to really drive the value add. And the whole concept is people like you guys and us. I mean, we do own Bitcoin, right? But a lot of retail doesn't know how to access it. That to bridge the cross between the crypto world and the fiat world, I want to offer people who buy and sell micro cap, mid cap stocks the opportunity for Bitcoin and altcoin alternatives by buying into us. And I think that's pretty much the summary. Huey, you got anything else?
No, I mean, I think, what attracted me to come and work for Vinanz. I previously worked for a miner called Argo Blockchain, which I was part of the original founding cap table of, and that went to $2 billion valuation from being a penny stock back in 2021. And if you look, at the likes of Argo and even Marathon and Riot, Marathon and Riot both started 15, 20 million market caps. GBTC started much smaller than that on the OTC back in 2015. Like the business is very scalable, and as long as you've got someone at the helm like David who's capable of capital raising, and willing to deploy that capital into machinery and scale up, in this linear fashion, then these things can grow. Like Core Scientific, which is about 600 million market cap. Just 9 months ago, they were the same size as us, right? And that was in infrastructure and market cap. So I think Vinanz hopefully is going to be the next one to make that kind of move, and hopefully it will happen. Well, we're confident it will happen over the next year.
And the other thing to add is that up until now we've been listed on it. So we're a BVI company with North American operations. We just happened to be listed on a really crappy stock exchange in London called Aquis, right? Because it was the only exchange that would allow us to list a Bitcoin operator in the UK. So there's only two Bitcoin mining companies listed in London, and that's Argo Blockchain, which Huey's just mentioned, and ourselves. The reason why the US is important for us is because we are US centric in our operations and our expansion plans. And now that we're OTCQB listed, we're DTC eligible, which means the click and point, penny traders can all soon get on their phones and buy and sell stocks. Our real push is getting the market cap moving from here. Volume, liquidity, market cap, raise funds institutionally, family offices, deploy those funds into putting out more Bitcoins into more clusters. So that's
That
the
sounds
model.
exciting. You've got a lot going on right now.
Profit, and we got no debt.
So who are your major competitors?
Well,
I think on the larger size, the business model is the same as Riot and Marathon and Hut 8 and Core Scientific. On the smaller size, there's a couple around on the OCC, and there's, like David said, there's only us and one other in London, and then there's a bunch of Chinese and Far Eastern firms that have got applications into list. But around our exact size, we went to see HC Wainwright yesterday, who are one of the big crypto investment banks. And yeah, like they don't have many on their books that are our kind of size. Like we're kind of in this little vacuum opportunity period, I think, in terms of our market cap.
and the boss of HC Wainwright, the guy who owns the firm, who says he's raised $19 billion for Bitcoin companies, he just says you're in the right spot, and don't worry, even though you're small, he says even the big ones started small, and I think you guys should get moving pretty quick. The other advantage that we have in having a London primary listing is we can do free trading equity raises. The people who raise money in Canada or America from a financing perspective are all locked in on 4-month, 1-day hold or Reg S or 12-month. Because we're London listed, we can raise institutional money on a free trading basis, and we can either deposit the stock either into the UK registry or into the new US registry. And that makes it quite attractive because not a lot of people like going, well, here's your money, and hopefully in 4 months' time or 12 months' time, I'll get my stock to be free trading. I don't trust anybody that long.
Not in
And
today's market, yeah.
Yeah, and the world's not that stable.
So what is your current mining capacity?
Right. So at the moment, we've got 300 miners spinning. We've got Nebraska, and we've got Labrador in Canada. Now, at the moment, we're expanding quite a lot in Labrador, and the reason for that is we have a really good contract with a mob called Block Labs. And Block Labs, and those of you who know Labrador, it's a freezing cold bloody place, which also helps with making sure that the Bitcoin miners run in the right environment. But they buy their power from Quebec Hydro. So we get the benefit of that. So when we originally started with them, we were getting about 7 US cents a unit, and our contract with them says the more megawatts we spin, the cheaper our power rate. So the last lot of miners that we installed of size, we went to over a megawatt of spinning capacity, and that dropped our power price to 5.9 US cents a unit. And when we sort of go another megawatt, we'll drop it down to about 5.5 US cents a unit. So the key driver with operating costs is for your monthly hosting costs, 90% of its power. And I read somewhere the other day that most of the miners in the world, the state of the art, so the SJ19s, at 8 cents a unit US, you're losing money. So you're going to see a lot of miners switched off until you actually see the Bitcoin price post the halving move quite significantly. And these data centers are ruthless. You don't pay your monthly bills, they just turn you off. There's no such thing as credit. And people will be selling their Bitcoins in their wallet to keep their unprofitable
Operations
miners. spinning, hoping that the Bitcoin price after the halving will sort of double so that they can turn them back on again, sort of scenario. But our model is we don't have leverage, we don't have debt, we pay everything in cash. So here's our expansion model as a for instance. If we go and raise, the next capital raise is 10 million US dollars, we'll put 5 million into new kit, right? Buy the capital. So right now, the new S21s, which are the latest and greatest 200 terahash machines, I buy them for 4,050 US dollars each, delivered through customs into Canada. All right. They're 200 terahash machines. So I would buy 1,200 S21s, and they only became available for selling around the world in February. That would go into 4 different clusters in 4 different states, either in Canada or in America, wherever I can get a good long-term contract at a good power price. So that's $5 million. $3.5 million I would keep allocated to pay monthly operating costs on the hosting agreements for the next 18 months. And the balance would stick in corporate treasury. Now I can deploy that sort of size in expansion every 6 to 8 weeks. And it's scalable to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. There are no shortages of data centers that can take clusters of the size that we're thinking about, typically 250 to 500 miners. And the reason why we want it set up in clusters in different states is we just don't want the overall exposure into one
It's like
state.
investing. I mean, if you're going to diversify, you're trying to protect your
Portfolio, correct. Absolutely.
exactly. So I see exactly what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense.
And I think that's the attraction why Huey said, Huey's been involved with Argo, and Argo were very Texas centric, and the Bitcoin price went down. They had huge leverage on capital infrastructure data centers, and they got caught. And I saw their announcement this morning on the London Stock Exchange. They're still burdened with debt, and they're struggling, even though they're EBITDA positive now after a whole lot of restructuring. They've still got about $60 million worth of debt. So we want to remain debt-free and expansion possibilities beyond belief. And if we can keep that model going, there's no reason why we can't be a multi-billion-dollar company within a year or two.
How much Bitcoin do you have currently?
Right. So the first year, we've only been listed a year and 1 week, right? So it was more about proving the model, getting listed, getting the dual listing, setting up the fabric and the infrastructure of the company. So we've got about 20 Bitcoin. We mine about 30 Bitcoin a year at the moment. As the new miners come in, that obviously increases, right? S21s is what we're looking at, which is the 200 terahash machine. So we'll continually upgrade to the faster machines. In Q3, the 240 terahash machines come out. So, I'd like to be 300 Bitcoin miners going to 500 Bitcoin miners going to 1,000 Bitcoin miners within the next 3 months. And then by the end of the year, somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 Bitcoin miners operating in, typically sort of 10 data centers, that contract to host our machines. That's our plan by the end of the year, and then 2025 an even bigger expansion.
Do they give you a discount for the larger amount? Like, if you contact the data center, do they give you any type of cut rate the more machines you have?
I know they do. I mean, no, because it's all about power costs. So we have an agreement with Block Labs that says the more megawatts that we spin, the cheaper our hosting agreement, and that's because we get a lesser price for our energy consumption. So, as I said earlier, we started off with Block Labs at around about 7 US cents a unit. We're now at 5.9 US cents a unit because we're now over a megawatt of power consumed. When we get to 2 megawatts, we're at 5.5 cents. When we get to 3 megawatts, we're at 5 cents. And then from our perspective, that's enough in one concentric area. I don't want to be
That's the sweet spot.
That's a nice sweet spot. And then,
Okay.
and in that situation, we're running around about 1,000 miners in 2 block lab facilities in Labrador. That's enough for them because the last thing I need is to get that phone call and says, well, Block Labs has just gone broke and you're fucked, guys. Right?
Yeah.
So the next place I really want to target is Nebraska because we've been talking with a mob called Wildcat that produce electricity from pig shit.
Really?
And unlike those that generate electricity from gas flares from oil wells don't run all the time. So when the oil well stops and the gas flare stops, they're actually not producing electricity. And what we want is constant supply of electricity, and pig shit all the time. So they offer a model and said, look, we will get a 40-foot container for you for 240 Bitcoin miners. We'll make it yours. We'll put it at a substation, and it will be powered from electricity from pig shit. And these guys are pig farmers, and they've made a fabulous business. And they said, we can roll that model out throughout Nebraska, through all of our pig farming network. He said, I could put 10,000 miners to work for you guys. 6.5 US cents a unit. That's fine with me.
How did they ever come up with pig shit creating electricity?
Well, that produces methane. And these guys are pig farmers. I mean,
Wow.
they're probably making more money mining Bitcoin than they are selling pork.
Now that's a pivot. Yeah, that's a sexy transition from what they do.
Yeah, and the other thing that differentiates us from the things like the marathons, I mean, marathon got really cheap power because they were sitting next to a coal mine and blah, 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 right? But when they get stuck in that situation, they have no choice but to expand in one spot, one state, one jurisdiction, one area, one power supply source. That's a great idea. But all you need is a bad piece of event and everything shuts down. So I just want to be multi-area, multifaceted. As you said, it's a bit like running your own investment portfolio. You want lots within your portfolio to minimize your risk.
I'm still standing here aghast at the fact that they can make so much money off of pig shitting. So the more pigs they have, the more methane they produce, the lower the cost is for your miners to run, and they can deploy these all over the place.
Yeah, and then Nebraska
That
specialists. I mean, I've already got an operation in Nebraska, and then I thought, oh, do I want another one? I want a diversification. Maybe I go to LA or Florida or some shit like that. And then I go, where are you guys based? He goes, Nebraska. I go, oh Jesus, I wanted to decentralize, not more of them. And then I said, how's the power work? He said, no, we stick it at a substation. And and that substation's powered by pig shit. But these guys are pig farmers, and they've got a whole network of pig farmers. Apparently, Nebraska's a very big producer of pigs.
Yeah, a ton. There's not a lot out there. I mean, there's like a few states, Nebraska, Dakota, the Dakotas. That man, you've got lots of area to do that.
Yeah. So
Well,
look,
so
it's a very simple model. I can sit here and try and put lipstick on a different pig and say, we can do that, we can do this. But it's a really simple model. We just want to own the miners, the serial number on the back. If you want to have a look, it's where do they get the presentation? You can actually see pictures of our miners operating or Huey might be able to put on spaces or whatever.
yeah,
But
Huey, right there in the bottom right, you'll see
Yeah.
a chat bubble. Click on that and add a link to where they can go for this presentation. We'll make sure that that's shared throughout the space for everybody that comes to it later too.
I'll tell you what I'll do. We were at the OCC office this morning, and we did a interview at that blockchain virtual conference, which David was going through the deck. So I'll put the link down for that actually.
yeah,
That's perfect.
So everyone can go and watch that.
yeah. And look, the other interesting thing about Vinanz, or however the Americans pronounce it, right, is we've only just started the market awareness campaign this week, and we didn't want to start it earlier, we needed the whole thing to be DTC eligible here in the US so that the click and point guys can all do it seamlessly. So Americans can buy it online in US dollars and hold US stock, not buy the guy to go to London, cover, arbitrage it. And that all really started 2 weeks ago. So really, this is the beginning of the education journey. So those people who know how to trade OTC QB, and we're not pinks, we're QB, we're on the regulated side, can they're first to the party. When we're not in this for a 20, 22 cent stock, we're in this to build a multi-billion-dollar business. So this is the
So
early
what's the
this is the early doors chat.
so
And
what's the current?
Huey's off to Vegas next week to see a whole lot of really crazy punters.
Yeah, so we're going. I'm going to Planet Microcap to represent finance next week, which is the big small cap conference in Vegas. If anyone's going to be there, pop us a message and we'll have a meeting or a coffee or a beer or a hand of blackjack or whatever.
Man, you guys really I'm really honored to be able to have the first go at getting people to know what's happening with Binance. I mean, can you share with people generally what the current stock structure looks like?
Right. So right now there's 151 million shares outstanding. Free float is technically 26 million shares. And most of that is held by, or 95% of that is held by one broking house with their clients in the UK called Clear Capital, right? In the US at the moment, there's probably only around about 400,000 shares sitting here at the moment. But the more active it gets, the more stock will move from London to here. So yeah, and one of the guys that we've had here this week, he's on his way back to the airport now. He is the boss of that broking firm, and he's over here because he wants to get this thing moving for him and his clients. So it's really tight. The insiders are locked in for 2 years, right? And we operate under the English rules, so not like the Canadian where the insiders all cheat and steal. No offense if there's any
I
Canadians here.
see it up close. I live here, and I know what
Yeah,
you're
well,
talking about.
okay. And I've run some stuff on the Canadian market as well in the past. The last thing I did in Canada was Bacanora Minerals, which is the big lithium thing that got taken out in Mexico. I was the guy who signed the deal with Elon Musk for a lithium supply from Sonora in Mexico. So I know the way Canada works, but England is very, very, very strict. I mean, we listed a year ago. The insiders, the directors, we're all physically locked in for 2 years. And the only free float in this whole thing is literally, 600 shareholders at Clear Capital, and that's retail through to sort of small family office participants. So that's the structure.
So after hearing all this, I got to ask, I mean, do you guys have a plan to uplist to NASDAQ over the next 12 months?
Yeah. Well, look, we've been talking to some of the big banks here. I'd love to say, look, we're going to go uplist within the next 6 to 12 months and we're going to be heroes. We can build a multi-billion-dollar business on OTC, QB, and QX within the next 12 to 18 months without even the concept of moving to NASDAQ. Huey, what was the name of the big thing on OTC that moved to NASDAQ, got to 32 billion?
GBTC.
GBTC.
It's now an ETF. It's now a Bitcoin ETF, right?
Right.
It was an investment trust on the OTC, but it's now converted to an ETF with the
Yeah, but what's it with
GBTC Grayscale.
Grayscale, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, Grayscale went all the way to $32 billion market cap on OTC and then graduated to NASDAQ. And we see ourselves, and when we spoke to the boss of HC Wainwright, who made a lot, he said, look, you're just like Grayscale. Don't think that just because you've got a market cap of 20, 25 million, that you can't get there. And look, obviously we'd like to move to NASDAQ at some point, but it's just a bit early. We can build a multi-big business sitting right where we are at the moment. Focus on the biz and keep the eye on the ball.
So I know you're in New York City. You have to be there on meetings and trying to establish things. How have things been going with your trip to New York? What have you been seeing?
Look, we've really been here kissing frogs. We want to bring on IR. We want to bring on PR. So we're meeting IR firms, PR firms, analyst firms. We've agreed with two analyst groups that are going to write us up. We're just working out a choice of between three, which investor relations group we want, because we want someone at the bottom of all of our news releases saying, if in trouble, call here, because Lennigus is a bloody sleep in Australia or or London, and we're also looking at talking to people to help get the story out, and it's gone
Of
really well.
course.
Well, we've only been here since Tuesday, and we've had lots of meetings. It's 8, 9 meetings a day, and we've pretty much got a plan for how we want to move it forward.
Do you have any? I got to ask. I mean, you guys are focused on Bitcoin, but do you have any exposure to the wider cryptocurrency markets beyond
All right,
Bitcoin?
this is where I'm going to put Huey on. Huey's got a passion for the altcoin, so Huey, bang away.
So we started a portion of our Bitcoin over to like a venture portfolio, in which we invest like across meme coins, launches on Solana and Ethereum, and some of the other major layer one players. So and then some of the ETH layer twos as well. So basically, most of these perform. You get a high beta return, on a market rally with some of these not necessarily smaller cryptos, but like these alternative coins. And that's what I think a lot of the miners miss out on, is that kind of exposure. And when the crypto market hits, if anyone was around during 21 to the end of 22, or even 2016 to the end of 2017, you see Bitcoin makes X amount, 10x, 15x return. But if you get the right alternative layer one blockchain, like Solana in the previous bull market went from $3 to $250, right? So we're kind of aiming to identify and hit those ones that are kind of under the radar right now. But we're being sensible. Like, we're still heavily weighted towards the Bitcoin market and the Bitcoin mining sector. But I think the aim is to get up to about 5% of our capital, 10% of our capital by the end of this year into an alternative strategy within crypto.
And the other
That's
thing
awesome.
we've got to be mindful of is the whole reimagination of the fiat world. That this Bitcoin is the leader at the moment, but there will be others. There's Ether and Solana; they'll all come into play. That they become a real asset play for the US, for the big fund managers that have to play, outside the crypto space. When the SEC approved 1-for-1 spot Bitcoin, that changed the game. So forget about 8 to 10x between halvings. To me, this is 20 to 40x, because you've now got such bigger weight of money. And full credit to the US, even though the SEC didn't want to do it, this drags the fund managers into the crypto space and allows the US government to tax profits on crypto for the fund managers. And that's really smart. And what that's done is it's dragged the rest of the world kicking and screaming, going, shit, we're going to miss out on this bloody big tax spot. And I see that Hong Kong is going live for all of their spot ETFs
Oh
on the
gosh.
30th of April. And we all think the weight of money here in the US, you wait till the weight of Asia through Hong Kong steps in.
It's massive, man, but they're trying to take over the world. So I get it.
Yeah, and I read something just before I got here while we're driving in from Wall Street area. You know, the two big Bitcoin ETFs here in the UK, in the US, are now at 428,000 Bitcoin for $28 billion already.
Yeah, the inflows have been huge.
And wait
Wow.
till China kicks in, and then you've got
I think Josh has got a bunch more questions. So
Sorry.
yeah.
I got a few, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
my co-host is very, very deep into this Solana trend that's been happening, and we've been talking quite readily about this, and we've noticed the amount of money flowing through Solana has far surpassed OTC markets.
Yeah, the Solana ecosystem is like its own stock market, basically, isn't it? It's like I
Yeah.
played around a lot in it, and I was early in WIF, early in a bunch of others, Myro. And, that doesn't mean to say that, I didn't round trip what I was early in, or like I'm not necessarily taking enough off the table. But it really is, it feels to me just like another capital market that's highly liquid and very engaged audience on it.
You're really seeing too. I saw an article on Bloomberg, I think yesterday, saying that this is the first time or the first cycle where they're seeing hedge funds begin to invest in meme coins, and specifically mentioning WIF and all these different ones. It's unbelievable how fast this is growing.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. I mean, I've been in a couple now, and they've blown me away.
Yeah, and for me, like for me personally, Solana's my biggest holding, and I think it's artificially low right now because FTX basically were the biggest Solana holder before they went belly up, and they still have this huge position which has to be auctioned off at some point, and it's going to happen at some point very soon. So as much as Bitcoin's already hit its all-time high, ETH's been very close. Solana's all-time high is about $250, and it only peaked out at about $205, right? So Solana's still got some room to go versus the other big tokens big tokens and coins on the market. So yeah, like that's the foundational reason why we want to allocate there, and we're primarily allocated into Solana and into some of the bigger meme plays, and trying to pick the next ones as well. But yeah, I mean, outside of my role at Binance, like I basically live on Solana, so we'll have to connect separately about that.
Sure, yeah, I'm working on a project right now. Would love to tell you about it.
Cool.
Yeah, no, you're gonna really want to hear this. In fact, I mean, I don't want to spill the
No. This is their
beans.
time. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I'm
It's
gonna have to get you two
fascinating to see
connected
the
here
growth.
soon. Yeah, I'm
Fascinating to
definitely
see the
have to
growth
connect
on
you guys.
Solana chain over the past 4 or 5 months.
Now, David, what's your target price on Bitcoin by the end of this year?
200.
Seriously?
I just think the whole weight of ETFs. You see, it's going to take a couple of months to shake out the halving and which machines are profitable and not profitable, and how long people can keep stuff going on credit, right? So it's going to take a couple of months, but you're not seeing the stop of flow of funds into the ETFs. And now you've got Hong Kong ETF, you've got London now talking about ETNs. I mean, what a crazy thing to do, but they're trying to do it a bit different. I just think that the normal crypto market would normally see, maybe 120,000 in Bitcoin by the end of the year. But now you've got the weight of real money behind it. It could go anywhere. And, I read something the other day. Bobby Diamond's going, I'm now revising my forecast on the $1 million Bitcoin. He's not saying when it is, and he says he's not going to hold any himself. But when you start hearing people like that talk about $1 million for Bitcoin,
Wow.
all of a sudden, the reality, the thought becomes the reality. I can't see why not.
There's so much happening so fast. I mean, now that the halving has taken place, I mean, how's it affecting your mining operations, and what are you
Well, this is
noticing
really
on
right. So
your
for all you
returns?
geeks, this is really interesting, right? So I'm sitting there watching the halving, and I'm watching my wallet, the desktop, into Labrador, where we've got 280 miners spinning, and we were doing 0.046 Bitcoin a day, right? The day before the halving. And when the halving happened, I'm watching it going, okay, nah, we've missed the halving. It hasn't happened because it was going 0.05. And within a day, I was WhatsApping Huey and Huey goes, well, this isn't a halving, it's called a doubling. The next day, we went from 0.05 Bitcoin a day for those machines to 0.072. So we were actually getting like 40% more Bitcoin mining capacity and Bitcoin dropping with our miners in Labrador for the first day and a half. And I'm sitting there going, I can't understand this. And then obviously it started to fall. And we're currently, for those machines that were doing 0.046, we're currently running at 0.037. So we're not half. So the
Wow.
halving hasn't halved us. But what we've also been doing is we've been overclocking our older machines. So the machines are the S19Js and the S19J Pros. We've started overclocking them with Luxor and with Block Labs, and we did across the fleet. We're getting about 12% increase, and now we're overclocking again for another 12%. Plus, we've brought on the new S21s, which are going absolutely gangbusters. So typically, a 104 terahash machine is now doing for us 120 to 130 terahash, and we've just brought in, some S21s, and they're running at 200. So, we'll just keep adding S21s at the moment. They're brilliant machines.
So you're projecting that it's not greatly affected your mining capacity and your ability to grow.
Correct.
That's awesome.
Correct.
Now I'm wondering how with the settling of who's got profitable machines, who's going to lose in this industry. I mean, you found a way to do it where you're keeping your costs down. How's that going to as people drop off? How's that going to affect your ability to mine? Won't it increase your opportunity to get Bitcoin?
Yeah, absolutely. The more people that drop off, the pools will be more. Our pools will be a lot more competitive. It's interesting. The boss of HC Wainwright, Craig Schwab. I mean, he bought the firm. He's the biggest punter in the Bitcoin space from a broker in history. We were talking about Bitcoin miners, and he said, "Well, what do you got?" And I said, "I got S19Js." He goes, "Well, they'll all be losing money." And I said, "Well, not us, because our power price is so low." So, I mean, one of the biggest guys in the sector who funds these people, even his view is even the S19s, which are 104 to 110 terahash, are all going to be loss making.
Wow.
And that just creates opportunities for us.
He's the guy that raises billions of dollars for Marathon, right? He's the guy that does those transactions. So yeah, he's a quite credible name in the capital markets area of the crypto space.
You guys have the right connections, man. The right setup. You really are in the beginning stages of some massive growth. So just to recap, you've got mining operations going on in Labrador. You're launching mining operations in Nebraska.
No, we've got Nebraska.
It's running off of pig shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's an endless supply of lower cost energy. You're going to be launching small clusters over the period of the next 3 to 4 months in different areas so you can diversify your risk and increase your mining capacity and the amount of money you're bringing in. And you're looking at whether or not you go to NASDAQ, turning this into a multi-billion-dollar company over the next 1 to 2 years.
That's the plan. And we're fully scalable. The only thing that limits us is how much new, fresh capital we can bring in to expand the model. And that's why we're over here also talking to the bankers. But, we want to raise at the right price at the right time. And the thing is, if someone said, "Dave, here's $100 million, I wouldn't take $100 million because I couldn't deploy it quick enough. To me, it's about raising $5 to $10 million chunks as we grow, deploying that, raising some more, getting the result, raising some more, getting the result, raising, and then before you know it, the whole thing turns into a hockey stick.
Well, folks, you heard it here first, right? On OTC Stock Talk, VONZF.
VINZ.
VINZF.
Yeah,
Vinanz.
that's it. Have a look.
I'm excited. Did you guys get the deck posted to the chat section for everybody? Let me look.
I did have a quick question about
There you go.
your other listing. I was just checking it out on TradingView and was trying to see, would I be able to see it on there in the UK? I think you got muted by accident there.
Unmute everyone.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, the London line, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see on TradingView or not.
No, you won't.
I think part of the the aim of this trip is to like get our stock available on a lot more platforms. So that's kind of working on Webull and various other trading applications and stuff like that. To basically, you can't really make a run until everyone can buy your stock. Like that's one thing that we've learned in capital markets, right? Like if people are restricted or if there's a lot of friction when it comes to the actual process of executing a trade, it's so difficult to get a stock to run in the right way. So like part of our boots on the ground trip in New York has been kind of socializing with these people who can give us wider availability and wider access. I haven't put the deck on the thing because I just don't have it on my phone right now. I have to do it from my laptop. But yeah, follow our Twitter and we'll post it up there at some point in the next couple of hours.
And great news, a friend of mine just checked, and the Vinanz stock on the OTC is tradable by all the brokers, because we run into restrictions here sometime, and a lot of it's human error, I think. But it looks like Thinkorswim and Fidelity and all the brokers are able to trade it, which is great.
Yeah, one of our key guys here, he trades through Fidelity and he can execute trades. And the thing is, we didn't want to get out there and start bashing the drums until we knew we were ready to talk. And we wanted to see what happened in the halving. We wanted to get the DTC eligibility, which enables the online trading to happen properly in a seamless sense. And now that's all, happening. It's time to start screaming from the rooftops.
Absolutely, man.
You heard it here first.
Thank you very much, guys. We got to jump because we got a 4 o'clock. But yeah, thank you very much for having us. And hopefully we can come back on, Josh, and at some point over the next couple of months, and we'll perhaps have a different story to tell then and a bigger market cap to show.
I can't wait for the update. I know that there's going to be a lot of people that find out about this over the next week or so that are going to want to hear an update at some point. So I'll look forward to reporting to you guys what type of numbers we get back from this on the amount of people we reach, and I look forward to having you on again.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Nice chat.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.